with any change, they have to prior approve. I've got to look at it. We've got a certain amount of time. If we approve, they can start using it. If we disapprove, we can either modify it or they just have to move on. States we want to be more like, competitive states, the states that these insurance companies are looking to deploy their capital, they have a file in use. That's what we want to ask. It's exactly what it says. You file it with the department and you start using it. Then it's up to the department to make sure that that filing is following all the rules and regulations. And if we find that it's not, then the insurance company's in bad shape because they've already started writing business and issuing policies based on that filing. It puts the onus on the insurance companies day one to make sure that they have everything accurate. And it works. It's not something experimental. It works. Let's see, providing guidelines for the appraisal process to better protect all parties that use it as an alternative to litigation. Again, looking at other states we compete against. If we're looking at property riders, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, especially Texas and Florida, that's where most of the property business is. Both of those states have updated and modified their laws as it pertains to that. We're looking to do something similar. So, you know, as someone that we work with in the House and Senate has said frequently, you know, the legislation that we're bringing, that you will see brought to the Capitol, it's not experimental. We're not asking the legislature, we're not asking you as citizens, we're not asking you as businesses to support, you know, experimental legislation. These are all things that have worked. They've been proven to work in other states, and we just want Louisiana to be more like that. So, and I can tell you, like I said before, you know, approximately 220 people at the Department of Insurance. I'm excited to work with every single one of those coworkers. They understand that the work that we do at the Department of Insurance has the opportunity to bring financial prosperity back to Louisiana citizens, back to Louisiana businesses. You know, I understand every dollar that you spend giving it to an insurance company in the form of premium that's a dollar you hope you never see back. Because if you do, that means you've had a claim. The goal is for you to keep more of those premium dollars in your pocket and not give it to an insurance company. But at the same time, we need an insurance market that works for all of us because we have to have insurance. It's the lifeblood of our economy. It's certainly the lifeblood of the financial markets. We need to have it. We just need to make sure that it's more available and more affordable. So, you know, we've got a new governor. We've got new House and Senate leadership. We've got a lot of new House and Senate members. You know, I'm looking forward to working with the chair, the House and Senate insurance committees, and all the members of the legislature to bring about some reform to Louisiana so that we can usher in an insurance renaissance. You know, I think in 4 years we're going to look back and we're going to say, you know, we've accomplished something. We've helped make the insurance industry more equitable, more affordable, more available, which directly translates into a better, stronger economy for the state of Louisiana. And with that, I'm happy to take questions.
Last week at the lobby event, you also mentioned another regulatory change around profit caps. You said you're going to lift profit caps entirely. I was hoping you could just walk me through what the previous administration's policy on profit caps was, and maybe then you can also sketch out why you think this is part of this broader vision to bring more competition to the market.
Sure. So the question is on profit caps, and that I am and I have done away. There was a DISC rule at the Department of Insurance that put an internal cap on when insurance companies file their rates with the department. They have to list all kinds of things: loss cost factors and adjustment factors, profit, expected profit. There was an internal cap that the previous leadership had in place. I do away with that. I think you, the consumer, should decide what is, you know, what you think is acceptable from a profit, and that's in the form of premium. It's also a barrier, a hurdle, a barrier of entry for companies that want to come in. If Texas doesn't have an internal profit cap, if Florida doesn't, Mississippi, pick your state. If they don't have one and we do, then, you know, that disincentivizes new companies from wanting to come to Louisiana. It's a free market principle, and I think that you, the consumer, should be the ultimate decider on how much a company should make or shouldn't.
Do you know what the cap was under Donald?
I want to say, and I'm going to say don't quote this because I don't know exactly when. I want to say it was 10%. Yes, sir.
You seem to have a different view of how billion-dollar insurance companies get to be billion-dollar insurance companies, as is advertised frequently here. But when premiums are always rising, never falling, how is that competitiveness?
Well, I don't even know how to rephrase that question, so I won't. Billion-dollar insurance companies pay $1 billion in losses. Like I said, during that 12-month period, the entire homeowners market in Louisiana took in approximately $2 billion in premium and paid out $23 billion in losses. So you want the insurance companies to be healthy, financially stable. As regards to premium and competition, again, it's free market. When 5 companies are writing 80% of the marketplace, that's not competition. Competition is when when you got multiple parties wanting to do business, transact business with you. And if someone wants it more than the other, they're going to get skinnier on the pricing. We're going to help create that marketplace where these companies are coming back into Louisiana. But also we've got to balance it to make sure, like I said earlier, that these companies have the financial resources. They've got the deep pockets. They've got the reinsurance in place so that when they do get hit with those $1 billion of losses, they're able to pay them. Yes, sir.
So, and I'll repeat a couple of things I've heard you say that I appreciate. One is insurance companies don't have to do business in Louisiana. They're free to go to any other state that they want to make a profit. The other thing is you said competition is the greatest consumer protection, and free market is going to, handle the profit side of these things. My question is, I tell a lot of my clients, the cost of claims is what drives premiums. And claims are going to happen. We're going to have natural disasters and car wrecks and these things. But in Louisiana, the cost of those claims seems to be significantly higher than every other state. And are there any bills or is anything on the horizon coming up to help address the cost of those claims?
There are, yes. So what bills are being discussed to any particular line you want?
Well, and so, and if I can ask 2 questions. Auto.
Your rules, not mine.
Okay. Auto, the cost of claims in auto, and I have my own ideas about why claims are so much higher. The other would be on the homeowners side. And from what I understand, the reason why a lot of the homeowners markets either stopped writing or left Louisiana was access and cost of reinsurance, and because of claims. And I know there's some things like the Fortified Roof program and that, but is there any movement on the reinsurance side? And then is there anything to address the cost of claims on the auto side, such as personal injury claims? So
to try the first question, addressing the cost drivers behind auto insurance. Again, a stat I looked at this morning, in Louisiana, the national average for an auto claim, physical damage claim, you've had a wreck that has bodily injury component, the national average is 25%. That 25% of every claim that had a physical damage had a bodily injury component. Louisiana, that number's 55%. So we're more than double. Why? We need to look into that. I mean, I think that there's people bringing legislation to address phantom billing, collateral source, direct action. And again, this is insurance. You can go down a rabbit hole on any word, that you use. But those are some, and I'm sure y'all will probably have speakers and legislators that are bringing specific bills to that. On the homeowner side, like I said, we do have a large percentage of our population that lives in proximity to the coast. So we do have a higher exposure to hurricane winds, damage. Insurance and reinsurance companies specifically model for that. They have very complex models. They will admit their models were wrong for Laura, Delta, Zeta, and Ida. No one had modeled having 4 hurricanes within a 12-month period and 800,000 claims. That is a portion. It's like anything. It's complex. That is a portion of what goes into it. Another is the actual cost to adjust an expense, to send an adjuster out there. The other is now with Laura, Delta, Zeta, and Ida, you now have a higher number of claims being litigated. That insurance companies, you filed your claim, you're with the insurance company, and now for whatever reason, you've hired an attorney. And so that number has gone up. I can't cite you any specific insurance companies. The only one I can, it's a public number, is Louisiana Property Casualty Insurance Company, Louisiana Citizens. Prior to Laura, all subsequent hurricanes prior to that, they had I want to say it was a 1.7% of the claims that they adjusted had legal representation. Starting with Laura, Delta, Zeta, and Ida, they're somewhere around 9%. That's just the state of where we are. And that cost gets filtered in and factored in into premiums on a go-forward basis. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Commissioner, one of the only programs in place at your agency now to actually address the kind of underlying risk you've been talking about, coastal risk, is Fortified Rouge. I know there's a $15 million roughly pot of money that Commissioner Donelon suggested could be used going forward to fund this program each year. Can you just tell us, are you going to push for money for that program this year, next year, the year after that, and how much money would it be?
Yeah, so the question is on the Fortified Roof Program, which was, I think, enacted 2 years ago. It was funded last year to the tune of $30 million. And it's a grant program, so if you own a property, and there's some stipulations, it has to be your primary residence, you have to have homestead exemption, you have to have flood insurance. There's a couple of qualifications on it, but you can apply for up to $10,000 grant to fortify your roof. So whether you're replacing a roof or you're putting a new roof on, you could get up to $10,000. You also get a discount from your insurance company. They filed the rates with the Department of Insurance. They're out there. You will get a discount once you do put the fortified roof on. But again, it's up to $10,000. The $30 million, that was all allocated October, November, December of 2023. So those roughly 3,000 applicants are going through the process right now of having their new roofs on. I know the first roof that was completed, I don't remember what it was a lady, and I believe she was interviewed by the media. She had somewhere around a 18% discount on the wind portion of her homeowner's policy. So, I mean, it's a substantial savings to you. You're right that the prior administration had put in for the upcoming budget an additional $15 million that the legislature asking them to allocate. I think that we'll be successful getting that money. I'm certainly supportive of it. What I'm going to propose going forward is just a different funding mechanism so that we don't have to go to the legislature every year to fund this important program, and it is important. And there's a mechanism where we can actually fee the industry itself so that the industry is paying for the fortified roof. They do this in Alabama, and they do it very successfully in Alabama, I might add. Had a meeting with the Commissioner of Insurance over there just a couple of weeks ago, and he was telling us how successful their program has been. It's been up and running for almost 10 years, well, over 10 years now. I believe they have somewhere around 45,000 roofs, fortified roofs in the state of Alabama. Only 6,500 of those roofs came from the grant program. The rest of that, the balance of that number came from people choosing to put a fortified roof on and paying for it, either themselves or getting a tax credit or deduction that Alabama has. And by the way, Louisiana has something similar. You can get if you choose to put a fortified roof on yourself, you can get up to a $5,000, I want to say it's a deduction, but we're going to also ask that they increase that to $10,000 here in Louisiana so that we encourage and promote stronger roofs. Because like I said, we've got so many properties exposed to hurricane winds. We need to make sure that we're promoting fortified roofs. And the industry also wants to make sure that we've got a program that's not set up on just the whim of the legislature. Flush years, you're probably more likely to get money. Lean years, you're probably less likely to get money. So we want to make sure that we've got that steady, predictable funding source so that the industry knows that we're always constantly putting new roofs on in Louisiana.
How much money per year is the fee going to raise if you get it in place?
We're looking at that right now. Like I said, I told you the Department of Insurance. Another stat, we have about approximately 1,400 insurance companies that we regulate, and also about 300,000 individuals. either claims adjusters, producers, agents, customer service representatives. About 300,000 people are licensed and regulated by the Department of Insurance. So we're looking at that to create something that's not an unnecessary burden, but also is enough money that it's going to do something. Yes, sir.
You've only been on the job 49.
49 days.
And I know you got a whole lot of work to do. But I'm asking Louisiana, in comparison to other states, if you know about this, a particular kind of policy that I'm asking about is like Fidelity Insur kind of coverage, director and officer investigating and that kind of stuff. How does Louisiana stand relative to other states in welcoming and inviting these kind of companies to Louisiana as well, and the policy coverage and costs that we look at?
So what is the marketplace in Louisiana for directors and officers and companies that write that coverage? Is that fair? I've not heard anybody say that it's an issue in the state. I don't know of any business owner or individual that's on a board that is an officer that has said that they've had any difficulties with that. But if you say it is, we certainly can take a look at it. But I haven't heard anybody say that. But look, overall, from a regulatory environment, like I said, I think we're less friendly than we need to be. And so if there is a problem, hopefully we'll be able to take care of that too. Uh-oh. Someone call it. You, lady in blue.
Do you have any plans for like incentive programs to bring in any new insurers or even retain the one that we have?
My incentive is to be a state that insurance companies want to come in because we're steady, reliable, predictable. You're treated fairly. That's the incentive I'm looking for. If you're specifically asking about the Ensure Louisiana incentive program that was funded last year with $45 million taxpayer dollars given to for-profit companies to come write business in Louisiana, no, I'm not. I didn't like that program. If I'd been in the seat, I wouldn't have asked for it. It didn't address the fundamental issues that we're trying to deal with right now. It was giving somebody with a headache a Band-Aid. Yes, sir. I thought did you?
I'm going to give you some observations and then leave you with a question. Louisiana has lousy drivers. Drive down I-10, I-12 here, people are speeding 70, 75 miles an hour in a construction zone. Go down Sherwood Forest. In the last 2 years, Sherwood Forest between Airline Highway, or between Florida and Old Hammond has had over 100 accidents. People don't obey stop signs, they run stop signs, they speed, etc. Okay, so you look at this, and you look at our auto insurance. And a few years ago, the legislature was going to go in and do some reforms that would get our auto insurance down. It hasn't come down. So you go to Texas, and the auto insurance rates are lower in Texas. Why do I know that? I had a subcontractor come in and do some work, and I asked him, I said, you got Texas plates on your vehicle? Oh yeah, we live here, but it's cheaper there. So we have people scamming the system. You drive around Baton Rouge here, look at all the Texas plates here in Baton Rouge. Why? Because they got a relative in Texas that allows them to use their address, and they funnel their insurance through the relative. Okay? The bottom line is, what is Texas doing, or what are other states doing to get the auto insurance rates down lower than what we have in Louisiana?
I think I've been addressing that. They create an environment that they have more competition. They create a more level playing field so that when they do have a claim, you're right. Infrastructure is a big need in Louisiana. It's we're behind by, again, any way you want to measure it. I'm not Secretary of Transportation. I'm Commissioner of Insurance. And so my focus is going to be on working to bring those companies to Louisiana so that when they do business here and their insured does have a claim, that they're going to be treated fairly. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Does that bringing companies to Louisiana, does that include Elevance?
Elevance doesn't write auto.
Blue Shield deal?
Look, if you're asking about Blue Shield, I can tell you this, that I'm very proud of the work that the department did from a transparency standpoint. There was a process. It was very clearly laid out. It was working. We didn't get up to the point where the Department of Insurance was going to have its hearing. You know, I can tell you, I don't know that if that's going to come back up again or not, but not knowing, I want to make sure that the department and myself maintain, you know, a neutral position on that. So, you know, my comment is no comment.
I want to know what you're going to do to lower the rates for single women, automobile rates, single women and widowers, because it's up there.
And I've heard that. So what are we going to do to lower auto rates for single women drivers? So look, and I've heard that here in the press club before, and that's one thing that now as Commissioner of Insurance, I get a little bit more transparency in seeing how they utilize that, and if there is unfair discrimination. You know, we're charged with making sure that it isn't unduly discriminatory. So I've heard that. I think it is a concern, and I certainly will be looking into it and making sure that if insurance company, what they're doing, they're playing by the rules. So we'll take a look at that. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Do you think there's any need for a special session focused on insurance? And if so, is there any appetite for something like that?
Need for special session is that's behind us now. You know, I was certainly vocal and an advocate for a special session early in the year, and that's simply from a timing standpoint, focused on property. You know, the reinsurance world, where, again, you've heard it's where the insurance companies buy their reinsurance. And I think if you look at last year's example, you know, Louisiana Citizens took a 62, if you had a Louisiana Citizens policy, you had a 62% rate increase just because of reinsurance cost going up. Reinsurance for Louisiana Citizens in particular, and for many property writers, takes place either June or July 1st in the global markets. My intent on having and asking for a special session early in January, so that if we could affect some of these changes in the property market that we've mentioned, that we would get the credit, if you will, with the reinsurance markets prior to these mid-year renewals. I still think that there's a path to do that by, you know, having the March 11th session, working with leadership to prioritize the property reform measures that we're talking about and that people will be bringing. If we can get those, and obviously there's a legislative process to that. You've got to get them in committee, out of committee, for a vote. There's a way to do it so that the law can become effective upon signature of the governor. If we're successful doing that, I think you could anticipate that the reinsurance markets should at least start looking at that and providing us with the benefit of having changed our laws. And that was the intent behind having a special session.
Does the governor not support the concept of a special session?
Well, he couldn't because he was told by a judge that they needed to have a session to deal with redistricting. That took up a large portion of January, and then February was a crime session, you know, which is, I should probably know, I guess it concludes next week. And then you're almost on March 11th anyway, so it would, you're close enough that it wouldn't matter. Yeah, Ben?
Yes, sir. So earlier you mentioned the 11 insurers that went insolvent, and then you listed off a number of different reasons they could have potentially gone insolvent. I don't remember the specific reasons you gave, but suffice it to say they weren't as a result of the consumer's actions. So how did our regulatory environment fail to prevent that? Or maybe even a better way of asking that question would be, what should the role of our regulatory environment be moving forward to make sure that doesn't happen again?
Good. So yeah, what is the role of the Department of Insurance with regards to consumer protection with companies coming in and doing business?
Well, specifically in that situation, and you said maybe they didn't have enough, they didn't have good enough
Surplus, reinsurance,
all that,
business plan. Look, I think that you've got companies that are very opportunistic, and they want to come in and write, you know, what I'll call cheap insurance, because it's going to be less than maybe what the market rate is. They'll write a bunch of it, and then it's great when there's not a hurricane, and then when there is, they just say, we're insolvent, here you go, citizens of Louisiana, you pay the claims, we'll see you later. I'm not going to promote, you know, as I said earlier at the beginning of this, I am not going to promote companies to come in and write, you know, these thinly capitalized companies to come in and write cheap insurance. And I'll give you the most probably obvious glaring example is the one I've heard for the last 5 years about a gentleman who lived in, you know, off the lake in New Orleans. And he said that after Katrina, his insurance the company he wrote, a big national company, was $1,000 a month. And after Katrina, they left. But he went with one of these new takeout companies, these new companies that were promoted to come in and write a bunch of cheap insurance, and it went to $400 a month. And he was able to realize that savings until Hurricane Ida, when that company he had written that cheap insurance with went insolvent. And had there been a claim there, and I don't know, I didn't hear the rest of the story if there was a claim, had there been a claim, then we would have picked it up. So we can't promote people buying cheap insurance that we're all going to have to shoulder at the end of the day. We've got to make sure, like I said, that the companies that come in, and that's the role of the commissioner, is in the department, is to make sure that companies come in, they've got the right business plan, they've got the right management in place, they've got the right financial reserves, and they've got the right reinsurance, so that when a catastrophe happens, and it is going to happen in Louisiana, we haven't figured out how to control weather, so we are going to have hurricanes again. So that when those companies do have claims, they have the financial resources. But that's the role, is to make sure that we're protecting the consumer from, companies that may not have the best interest of the consumer at heart.
Okay, with that in mind, I agree with you that numbers don't lie. So if in order for Louisiana to be stable and predictable, which is what you said, I was wondering if you would allow a company to come in who had just laid off at the end of last year 10,000 employees.
Hypothetical scenario?
True.
Okay.
Not hypothetical, true.
Okay, but you can't just take, that's one factor, and I don't know how many. What's their business model? What's their reserves? I'm not going to get into debate with you on it. That's one point. It's one data point. And again, I cannot take a position on the Blue Shield elements, because we may be in the position of having to make a decision on that in the future, whether it's Elevance or some other company. No, ma'am, it's not still on the table. They withdrew their application. But it's like if you ever had a neighbor that had a for sale sign, and then one day it's not, the house is still for sale, right? So, Blue Cross leadership can decide to do whatever they want in the future. I don't know what that is. They have not told me. I don't know what Elevance is going to do. They have not told me, nor should they tell me. So all I know is what you know. They withdrew their application. They can come back anytime they want. Anybody can come back anytime they want.
Yeah, Commissioner,
Yes, sir.
just piggybacking off Ben's question, there still are a bunch of demotech-rated, small, thinly capitalized companies who are actively participating in citizens takeout and have over the last year. There's also the incentive companies. I know you're going to let that expire, but are you going to take any specific action to prevent these small companies from taking 10,000, 30,000, 50,000 policies straight out of Citizens and building up a quick book of business and writing cheap insurance?
Sure. One of the things that the incentive program did put in place is that the department has to look at the reinsurance that the incentive companies, I believe there's 5 left, 4 or 5. So the department has to look at that. It's been my, it's my position, my interpretation that as the regulator, I could go ahead and look at the reinsurance that insurance companies have. So we're looking at that right now. We're formulating an internal process so that we can look and see as best we can. We don't have a room full of reinsurance experts that can analyze a reinsurance treaty and tell if their pro rata is good or bad. But there are things that we can do, and we can hire experts to look at concentrations. One of the things that, companies want to come in, and again, back to the math, our population's close to the coast, our insured properties are close to the coast. So we want to make sure that companies come in and have a geographic spread of business. If all your eggs are in one basket down in Lafourche Parish, then if we have a hurricane, you're probably going to, get hit hard. If that's what your business model is, you better make sure you have enough reinsurance to include that. So the department needs to take a deeper look into that, and we certainly are. Like I said, it's not my position that we need legislative approval to do it. I think we have the regulatory oversight. So, and with that, look, I thank you. I appreciate your time today.
Okay, thank you. And a reminder, next week it'll be Ronnie Morris, the president of Bessie, who will be our guest. Hope to see you then. Thank you.